Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next hour. Trump pins the blame on government shutdown as Democrats register wins in key US polls. Women candidates win gubernatorial polls in New Jersey and Virginia. Zoran Mandani becomes the youngest mayor of New York City. In another win for Democrats, California votes in favor of temporarily redrawing congressional maps. US Supreme Court to hear arguments on legality of Trump's tariffs imposed under International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Treasury Secretary to be present in the court as Trump calls the case life or death for the US. In Bosnia, at least 10 people dead and several injured in fire in an elderly residential home, cause of the fire being ascertained. And India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal to visit New Zealand to strengthen bilateral economic ties, focus on the ongoing FTA negotiations. Up first, news from the United States. Well, Democrats swept a trio of races on Tuesday in the first major election since Donald Trump regained the presidency, giving the beleaguered party a shot of momentum as it looks ahead to the congressional midterm elections next year. In New York City, Zoran Mandani, 34-year-old Democratic socialist, won the mayoral race. He capped a meteoric and unlikely rise from an anonymous state lawmaker to one of the country's most visible Democratic figures. Mandani outlasted former Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo, 67, who ran as an independent after losing the nomination to Mandani earlier this year. Trump has labelled Mandani a communist and vowed to cut funding for the city in response to Mandani's accession. In Virginia, Democrat Abigail Spanberger will be the first woman to run the U.S. state of Virginia after her party won back the governor's mansion from Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin. She's a former CIA officer and moderate three-term congresswoman and beat Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, a Marine veteran and staunch Trump ally, by a comfortable margin. Moving on to New Jersey, where another Democrat, Mickey Sherrill, won the elections for governor. She defeated Republican Jack Ciattarelli and will succeed Democratic Governor Phil Murphy. The New Jersey race was the most hotly contested campaign, with the contest shattering spending records after both national parties poured millions of dollars into advertising. Separately, on Tuesday, California voters held a special election. As per reports, California Proposition 50 will pass. The measure asks the state's 23 million registered voters whether they authorize temporary changes to congressional district maps approved by state lawmakers. Proposition 50 is a response led by Governor Gavin Newsom and Democrats to redistricting in Texas that came at the urging of President Trump in an effort to gain Republican seats in the U.S. House. Proposition 50 could open a pathway to flip up to 5 of 435 U.S. House seats in favor of Democrats. For Republicans, Tuesday's election served as a test of whether the voters who powered Trump's victory in 2024 will still show up when he is not on the ballot. President Donald Trump reacted to the Republican losses in off-year elections across the United States on Tuesday night, citing unspecified pollsters who attributed the loss to the ongoing government shutdown and Trump not leading the ballot. Trump wasn't on the ballot and shutdown were the two reasons that Republicans lost elections tonight, according to pollsters. This is what Trump wrote on his Truth Social platform. The decisive races in New York City, Virginia and New Jersey come as the US government shutdown enters 35th day today. And let's try and dissect these verdicts with our correspondent Akshay Dongre joining us now. Akshay, Democrat Mickey Sherrill winning New Jersey's governorship, Democrat Abigail Spanberger's win in Virginia, Mandani winning New York's mayoral race. Is it an early referendum of sorts for President Trump?
Well, it is in fact, and especially the Virginia result, that is traditionally a red state, a Republican state, giving a verdict for a Democrat nominee. So that is a clear indication that what is about to come in the midterm elections next year for Donald Trump. The policies, including immigration, including the high rising of daily cost because of the tariffs that have been implemented and are due to be heard in the Supreme Court this week, the legality of it, the immigration policies, the ICE agents and the way they have been conducting their raids, etc., everywhere in the country, from a deployment of National Guards and other issues that have been, making rounds in the headlines, have been perhaps responsible for whatever is happening in the US. So clearly what we are looking at right now is an early indication of what is the future of Republican Party in the next midterm elections, unless there is a course correction made by the very top, including the US President Donald Trump. And the kind of veiled threats that he has been issuing do not work. Even in the government shutdown, he has been saying that shutdown can be used as an opportunity to remove deadwood, to remove, inefficient and unnecessary social security schemes as well. And then now, just ahead of the result for mayoral elections in New York, he said that if Mandani wins the election, then he will be cutting the funding to the bare minimum that is required according to the Constitution. Also in these threats violating several aspects of the US Constitution. So all of these are not working out. The policies are not working out, it seems, and the kind of identity politics that has taken over the Republican Party has also pushed the voters to Democrat side, to more liberal faces, where the people are now opting for candidates in not only in the Democrat states, the Democrat candidates in the Democrat states, but also in traditionally red states, Republican states like Virginia. That is a point of concern for the Grand Old Party.
Okay. What significance does California Proposition 50 special vote hold as voters have decided to temporarily redistrict the state?
Well, it is going to be significant, and it is going to somewhat upend, the efforts that are being done by the Republican Party in 4 states. So the number of districts in a state equals to the number of US Congress representatives that a state can send. If the number of districts are increased in 4 Republican states by a figure of 9, that means 9 US representatives can be sent in the Congress by the Republican Party. To offset that, what we are seeing is an attempt by the California governor to add about about 6 to 5 districts in the state of California. That is still going to be short of about 3 representatives, and it seems that some other Democrat-ruled state, Democrat Citadel is going to follow the suit to sort of equal the number of districts that are being increased in Republican states to make sure that the Democrat Party is not at loss when the midterm elections take place. So that is, it seems, going to be the focus of the Democrat Party as well. But it remains to be seen that what is going to be the result of it. But now clearly, it's sort of adding on to more districts, to add on to more representatives that is taking place by both the parties. And it remains to be seen that what is going to be the constitutional legality of all of this, if the matter is taken to the Supreme Court, because ultimately it remains the body that is the watchdog for the US Constitution, and we'll have to see that what is going to be the result in other states, whether they follow the suit and where is it going to end. Back to you,
Okay,
Tanvi.
thank you very much, Akshay Dongre, for all those details. Well, talking of constitutional legality, the US Supreme Court will hear arguments on Wednesday in a pair of challenges to President Donald Trump's power to impose sweeping tariffs on virtually all goods imported into the United States. The hearing marks the beginning of what could be the biggest battle yet in Trump's trade war, as the Supreme Court considers whether his use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose duties was constitutional. Various businesses and 12 US states have challenged these tariffs. They argue that Trump overstepped his constitutional authority, noting the power to levy taxes and tariffs traditionally lies with the Congress. 3 lower courts have already ruled against the administration, finding that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act does not explicitly grant the president the power to impose tariffs. Trump has defended the administration's use of tariffs to balance global trade flows, citing years of high duties charged by other countries on US imports. He argued that his tariffs had increased US revenues and driven the stock markets to a series of record highs. After hearing arguments on Wednesday, the Supreme Court will have time until June to make a decision, following a rigorous process of arguments and discussions on the case's merits. This will be followed by a vote. Now, Donald Trump called the Supreme Court hearing a matter of life or death for the United States. Trump, in a social media post, said that a favorable ruling would secure tremendous but fair financial and national security. He further said, and I quote, "Without it, we are virtually defenseless against other countries who have for years taken advantage of us," unquote. Trump added that stock market is consistently hitting record highs and the US has never been more respected than it is right now. He also said a big part of this is the economic security created by tariffs and the deals that the US has negotiated because of them. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on Tuesday expressed confidence in the administration's legal arguments regarding President Trump's tariff policies, emphasizing that their necessity for national security and economic leverage.
The White House is always preparing for Plan B. It would be imprudent of the president's advisors not to prepare for such a situation. With that said, we are 100% confident in the president and his team's legal argument in the merits of the law in this case, and we remain optimistic that the Supreme Court is going to do the right thing. The importance of this case cannot be overstated. The president must have the emergency authority to utilize tariffs.
Now, amid all this, the US government shutdown entered its 35th day on Tuesday, matching a record set during Donald Trump's first presidency, as his administration warned of potential chaos at airports going into one of the busiest travel periods of the year. The federal closure appears almost certain to become the longest in history. The government has been grinding to a halt since Congress failed to approve funding past September 30th, and pain has been mounting as welfare programs, including aid that helps millions of Americans afford groceries, hangs in limbo. About 1.4 million federal workers, from air traffic controllers to park wardens, have been placed on enforced leave without pay or made to work for nothing. The Trump administration sounded the alarm on Tuesday over turmoil at airports nationwide if the shutdown drags into a 6th week, worsening staff shortages, snarling airport lines, and closing down sections of airspace. More than 60,000 air traffic controllers and Transportation Security Administration officers are working without pay. Thanksgiving air travel is expected to set a new record this year. White House has warned that increasing absenteeism could mean chaos at the check-in lines. You're watching DD India News Hour, still to come on the show. Israel confirms receiving remains of another Gaza hostage as part of the US-mediated ceasefire deal. In Kentucky, at least 7 people killed, several more injured after a cargo plane crashed there. And stay with us as we get you glimpses of the world's most beautiful walking route, the Lycian Way in Turkey.
Tell us whether the British were really interested in religion, or was this all about politics?
The British wanted to know as much about it as they could. But what they got was not necessarily a truly accurate reflection of the lived reality. It doesn't matter what your religion is as long as the man is good.
I cannot not ask you about the Kerala story, that contentious, controversial movie.
It really was not just propaganda, it was just blatantly false.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. Days after US President Donald Trump ordered the military to prepare for action in Nigeria to prevent the killing of Christians, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that Trump is closely monitoring the situation.
As the president stated, Michael, if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the United States will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may take action to wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities, especially against innocent women and children. I don't have any further announcements on that for you today, but I can assure you the President of the United States
Earlier on Sunday, Trump warned that the US could send troops or launch airstrikes in Nigeria to stop the killing of Christians. The threat of military action came a day after his administration added that Nigeria was back to a countries of particular concern list that the US says have violated religious freedoms. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said on Tuesday that he will discuss Venezuela's issues and the increased US military presence in Latin America at the CELAC summit later this month, and may also call his US counterpart Trump again if talks between their countries do not progress by the end of COP30, the United Nations climate conference Brazil is hosting this month. Lula and Trump met in Malaysia in October, seeking to overcome tensions between Brazil and the United States after Trump increased tariffs on US imports of most Brazilian goods to 50% from 10% tariffs in August.
After finishing the meeting with President Trump, I told him it was essential that our negotiators start talking soon. I suggested it be that same night. I told President Trump in no uncertain terms and gave him my message in writing, because words can be easily forgotten. So I put it in writing. We want him to drop the sanctions against our Supreme Court justices, and we want the tariffs to be zeroed out so that we can start negotiation from scratch.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said on Tuesday that unilateral US military action inside Mexico won't happen, even as the US has ramped up its military efforts, including fatal strikes in Latin America in recent months. Sheinbaum has repeatedly rejected unilateral US military action inside Mexico, including US President's offers to send US troops to help fight drug cartels. Since early September, US strikes against suspected drug vessels in the Eastern Pacific and the Caribbean have killed dozens of people.
Tenemos un entendimiento.
It won't happen. We have a security agreement that we worked on for many months with the United States government, and we agreed on it when the Secretary of State was here. We will continue working within that framework, which has very clear principles stated at the beginning of the document: respect for our sovereignty, our territorial integrity, and collaboration and coordination without subordination of either state. So no, that's not going to happen.
On to Belgium now. Belgium's Brussels and Le airports were closed on Tuesday evening after drone sightings. This diverted many incoming planes and prevented others from taking off. A spokesperson of Belgian Air Traffic Control Service confirmed shortly before 1900 hours GMT that a drone was seen near Brussels airport, which was then closed as a security precaution. Belgium's busiest airport reopened after 2 hours of disruption, but it was closed again after more drone sightings. It was unclear when flights would resume. National carrier Brussels Airlines said that 15 outbound flights were unable to take off, while 8 incoming flights were diverted to other airports. The incidents followed drones seen over a Belgian military airbase during the weekend. Defence Minister Theo Franken told Tuesday's incident appeared to be carried out by professionals who were keen on destabilizing the country. And now we take a look at instances where European air travel has been disrupted by drone sightings. On September 22, 2025, Copenhagen Airport, the Nordic region's busiest, was shut after drone sightings. 5 smaller Danish airports were also closed temporarily. Later that day, Oslo Airport diverted flights and shut its airspace following a drone observation. On 23rd of September, Denmark's Prime Minister called the Copenhagen drone incident the most severe attack on national infrastructure. By September 26th, EU states backed plans for a drone wall to detect and intercept drones. On October 1st, EU defence commissioners discussed the proposal to safeguard European airspace. On October 3rd, Munich airport halted operations after drone sightings. 17 flights were cancelled, 15 diverted, and around 3,000 passengers affected. On November 4th, Brussels and Leh airports were closed after drone sightings, forcing diversions, halting departures, marking the latest in a series of drone-related disruptions across Europe. Next, updates from West Asia. Israel confirmed on Wednesday that remains handed over by Hamas late on Tuesday belonged to an Israeli-American national seized by Hamas during the October 7, 2023 attack. The Prime Minister's office in a statement said that the remains identified on Wednesday were of 19-year-old Staff Sergeant Itay Chen in the Israeli Forensic Institute in Tel Aviv. 19-year-old Chen, a dual U.S. citizen, served as a combat soldier in the 77th Battalion of the 7th Brigade. According to the information and intelligence available to the Israeli army, he fell during combat in a tank in the battle in Kibbutz Nir Oz on the morning of October 7, 2023, and his body was taken over by Hamas. The handover was part of a U.S.-mediated deal under which Hamas is still to release 7 more bodies of hostages it's been holding on in Gaza for over 2 years. The terms of the truce in effect since October 10th requires the return of all hostages, living and dead. The death toll in the U.S. cargo plane crash has risen to 7. The ill-fated American cargo airline plane bound for Hawaii crashed shortly after takeoff from Louisville International Airport in Kentucky. The plane took off with fire on one wing and a huge fireball erupted as it hit the ground. Several buildings in an industrial area beyond the runway were on fire after the crash, with thick black smoke rising into the evening sky. The cause of the crash was under investigation by the FAA and the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board. The crash comes amid one of the longest government shutdowns in U.S. history, with the Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warning of mass chaos earlier Tuesday due to a lack of air traffic control staff. In Bosnia, 10 people were killed and around 20 injured in a fire that broke out in a nursing home in the town of Tuzla late Tuesday. Police patrols, firefighters and emergency medical services were quickly dispatched to evacuate and care for residents. As per reports, several patients were treated for carbon monoxide poisoning. The chairman of Bosnia's tripartite presidency, Zed Kosmic, offered condolences to the families of the victims and wished for a quick recovery for those injured. In the US, opening arguments will begin in Chicago on Wednesday in the first civil trial against US aviation giant Boeing over the 2019 crash of an Ethiopian Airlines 737 MAX aircraft, which killed 157 people. The 8-person jury that was picked will be hearing the case concerning the March 10, 2019 Ethiopian Airlines flight that went down 6 minutes after departing Addis Ababa for Nairobi, killing all on board. The two principal plaintiffs in the trial are the families of Shikha Garg of New Delhi, Mercy Nadivo of Kenya. Each side will have 90 minutes on Wednesday to present its case. The company has accepted its fault and settled most of the dozens of lawsuits by families of victims in the 6 years after the MAX jetliner crashed. French judicial authorities said that they had opened an investigation into Chinese social media platform TikTok and the risks that its algorithms could push young people to suicide. Paris prosecutor Laure Bacau said that the probe was in response to a French Parliament committee's request to open a criminal inquiry into TikTok's possible responsibility for endangering the lives of its young users. The committee sought to examine the psychological effects of TikTok on young people after 7 families accused it in a 2024 lawsuit of exposing their children to content pushing them to commit suicide. Bacau said a report by the committee had noted insufficient moderation of TikTok, which could push vulnerable individuals towards suicide by quickly trapping them in a loop of dedicated content. And next, we take a look at other stories making news around the world. In Paris, Chinese fast fashion Shein's arrival at the iconic BHV department store has prompted backlash from French brands. Several local labels, including shoemaker Audage, have pulled out, citing ethical and environmental concerns. Shein's outlet opening is a part of efforts by the store's operator to revive BHV and attract younger shoppers. In Peru's Amazon, more than 6,500 hatchlings of Taricaya turtles were released into the Galleria River Basin as part of a large-scale conservation effort inside the Sierra del Divisor National Park. The initiative aims to restore population of the endangered yellow-spotted river turtle, a freshwater species native to the Amazon basin and listed as vulnerable by the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List. In Peruvian Amazon region, scientists have discovered 2 new frog species in the ecosystem of Yanachaga Shemalian National Park, according to the National Service of Natural Protected Areas. Found at an altitude of 3,280 meters, the reddish amphibians have been named Phrynopeus monirulusae and Phrynopeus melongunis. And in Turkey, the historic Lycian Way, a 500-kilometer trail along the Mediterranean coast, has been recognized by international travel authorities as one of the world's most beautiful walking routes. The name Lycia translates to Land of the Light. It is celebrated for blending stunning natural landscapes of the Mediterranean with numerous ancient cities and cultural treasures. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri holds talks on strategic tech security cooperation with UK's National Security Advisor Jonathan Powell and Deputy NSA Matthew Collins. India's dairy giant Amul emerges as the #1 cooperative in the world. And the Divine Festival of Lights dedicated to Lord Shiva, Dev Deepavali, being celebrated today.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we decode Astra Mark II, why it is India's next generation air dominance weapon, what makes this missile a true game changer. We analyze the force multiplier in the sky, India's mid-air refueling aircraft, and their critical role in sustaining air power. Finally, the infantry soldier gets a much-awaited close-quarter battle carbine, which is compact, precise, and built for decisive close combat. We decode the army chief's words, preparing for the unknown. What does it reveal about India's evolving war-fighting mindset? Catch the sharpest analysis of strategy, firepower, and future warfare this Wednesday at 8 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Tell us whether the British were really interested in religion, or was this all about politics?
The British wanted to know as much about it as they could. But what they got was not necessarily a truly accurate reflection of the lived reality. It doesn't matter what your religion is as long as the man is good.
I cannot not ask you about the Kerala story, that contentious, controversial movie.
It really was not just propaganda, it was just blatantly false.
Less than 100 kilometers from Shillong and a 3-hour drive towards Doki River, travelers now have a chance to experience something unique.
My name is Jason Jaman Lamare. I'm the co-owner of Pioneer Adventure Tours. So when we started, there wasn't even a road to the village. I mean, the road was in a very bad condition. So we came to the village and all that. This is in the month of, I think, October. We came here and we decided to, we just came for a fishing trip, myself and
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I am Tanvi Taneja. External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, today said that India and Japan have agreed to work closely to implement the joint vision for the next decade cooperation between the two countries. Addressing the 8th India-Japan Indo-Pacific Forum, the minister said that both the nations have more responsibility towards the Indo-Pacific. He added that the bilateral relationship responds to the changing global scenario, and that is reflected in the deepening of cooperation across multiple domains.
A free and open Indo-Pacific is a stronger imperative, but also a more complex challenge. Our bilateral relationship responds to the changing global scenario, and that is reflected in the deepening of cooperation across multiple domains. The recent conversation between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Takaichi, as soon as she assumed office, is testimony to the priority that we both attach to it. The visit of Prime Minister Modi to Japan in August significantly laid out the joint vision for the next decade. Its 8 priority pillars and the investment target of 10 trillion yen over the next 10 years are useful metrics to assess our ambition.
India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has arrived in Auckland to hold discussions with his New Zealand counterpart Todd McClay on the ongoing free trade agreement negotiations today. The visit reflects the shared commitment of both countries to expedite the free trade agreement FTA process and build a more comprehensive and mutually beneficial economic partnership. The 4th round of India-New Zealand FTA negotiations commenced in Auckland on 3rd of November, marking an important step in deepening the bilateral trade and economic dialogue between the two countries. During the visit, Minister Goyal will participate in a series of high-level engagements aimed at strengthening trade, investment and innovation linkages between India and New Zealand. A New Zealand-India Business Forum will be held in the afternoon in Auckland, followed by a community interaction event with members of the Indian diaspora. India's Minister of State for External Affairs, Pabitra Margarita, is visiting Ecuador in the first leg of his 3 Latin American and Caribbean nations visit. He met representatives from the Ecuadorian business community in Quito today and had a good discussion on strengthening engagements between business communities to deepen bilateral trade. The minister, during his first visit to the South American country, will engage with the country's leadership, inaugurate the resident embassy of India in Quito, and meet Indian community representatives. India's Defence Secretary Rajesh Kumar Singh met Israeli Defence Minister Israel Katz in Tel Aviv on Tuesday. During the meeting, both sides reaffirmed commitment to strengthening the long-standing defence partnership between India and Israel. In a social media post, India's Ministry of Defence said that Defence Secretary Rajesh Kumar Singh called on Israeli Defence Minister and briefed him on the key outcomes of the joint working group meeting, aimed at further strengthening the robust and enduring defence cooperation between India and Israel. The meeting took place alongside the 17th Joint Working Group on Defence Cooperation, co-chaired by Defence Secretary Singh and Director General of Israel's Ministry of Defence, Major General Amir Baram. During the meeting, an MOU on defence cooperation was signed to expand the scope of bilateral defence ties between the two countries. The development underscores the growing strategic partnership between India and Israel, with both countries seeking to deepen their cooperation in defence and security areas. India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri met UK National Security Advisor Jonathan Powell and his deputy Matthew Collins in London on Tuesday. During the meeting, the two sides discussed ways to advance the India-UK Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. The talks covered key global and regional security issues as well as cooperation in critical and emerging technologies under the Bilateral Technology Security Initiative. In Jammu and Kashmir, an encounter broke out between security forces and terrorists early Wednesday morning in Chatru area of Kishtwar district. The Indian Army, in a social media post, said that its troops, in coordination with the Jammu and Kashmir police, have engaged with terrorists in the Chatru area during an intelligence-based operation. Further details are awaited as the operation is going on. And in some good news now, 2 Indian cooperatives have emerged as the world's top cooperatives. The ranking has been done by International Cooperative Alliance World Cooperative Monitor 2025 in a conference in Qatar's Doha. Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation Limited, which markets dairy products under the Amul brand, has been ranked as the #1 cooperative in the world. The rankings were given based on GDP per capita performance. The recognition underscores Amul's contribution to empowering millions of dairy farmers through its cooperative model, fostering inclusive growth, social equity, and sustainable rural development across India. Another Indian cooperative giant, the Indian Farmers Fertilizers Cooperative Limited, or IFCO, emerged as the #2 cooperative globally. IFCO's performance is particularly notable as it continues to embody the principles of cooperation by empowering millions of farmers through sustainable fertilizer production, digital platforms, and environmental stewardship. As the world marks the UN International Year of Cooperatives this year, the World Cooperative Monitor 2025 reinforces the cooperative spirit exemplified by institutions like Amul and IFCO that continue to drive equitable growth and resilience. Home Minister and Cooperatives Minister Amit Shah congratulated both these cooperatives. In a social media post on X, he said, and I quote him here, "It's a proud moment for Bharat. Heartiest congratulations to Amul Corporation and IFCO for occupying the first 2 ranks among the top 10 cooperatives in the world. It is an honor to the tireless dedication of millions of women associated with Amul and farmers contributing to IFCO. It is also a testament to the boundless potential of the cooperatives, which is being transformed into a global model of empowerment and self-reliance by Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji." India's Varanasi, the city of Lord Shiva, where every festival becomes a celebration of devotion. And during Dev Deepavali, Banaras or Varanasi transforms itself into a mesmerizing sea of lights, with every corner of the city shimmering as if the stars themselves descend on earth. Celebrated every year on Kartik Purnima in the Hindu calendar, the festival is being celebrated today with great enthusiasm. Take a look. As the sun sets over the Ganges, Dev Deepavali, the festival of lights, illuminates the ghats of Varanasi. The beautification of the ghats and the Kashi Vishwanath Dham corridor project under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has made this historic celebration even more divine. Dev Deepavali means the Diwali of the gods. According to a belief, on this day, Lord Shiva killed the demon Tripurasura and the gods lit lamps to celebrate Lord Shiva's victory. Every year, 2.5 million lamps are lit on the occasion. The Grand Ganga Aarti will once again be dedicated to the brave soldiers of India. The ghats of Kashi have been decorated with 21 quintals of flowers this year. On the occasion, 21 boys and 42 girls will perform the sacred Ganga Aarti. Under Prime Minister Modi's vision of Navya Kashi, this year's Dev Deepavali showcases a blend of tradition and technology. At Chet Singh Ghat, a Kashi Katha 3D laser show will narrate the story of Lord Shiva and Parvati's marriage, the devotional tradition of saints like Kabir and Tulsidas, and the founding of Banaras Hindu University, all through light and music. Additionally, a green firecracker show will illuminate the night sky with colors. Suya Sharma's report for DD India. And now we take a look at other stories making news in India today. In the central state of Chhattisgarh, near Bilaspur station, railway authorities are conducting swift relief and rescue operations following an unexpected incident. Senior officials are on site overseeing the situation closely to ensure timely assistance. Dedicated helpline numbers have also been issued to support affected passengers and their families. Vijay Kumar Reddy, a miniature artist from Behrampur, Odisha, has made it to the Guinness Book of World Records by crafting the world's smallest spoon, measuring just 0.013 meters. The wooden spoon, made with self-designed tools and a double magnifying glass, took him more than 3 years to complete. Inspired by his college professor, Reddy has been passionate about miniature art since his childhood. Earlier, he set a record for a 0.016 meter spoon before breaking his own fate. The 73rd Jagadhatri Puja Mela is observed in India's eastern state Odisha. It marks one of the region's most awaited cultural celebrations, honouring the goddess, a symbol of divine strength and victory of good over evil. The annual fair, running for over 3 decades, attracts thousands with its vibrant mix of devotion and festivity. This year, a pavilion inspired by the Telangana Secretariat and stalls featuring art, crafts and performances highlight the celebration's blend of spirituality, creativity and commerce. Thousands of devotees gathered in Odisha early this morning to take the holy Kartik Purnima bath, marking the end of the sacred Hindu month of Kartik. The festival, celebrated on the full moon day in October or November, holds deep religious significance as devotees take ritual dips in sacred rivers to purify their souls. Known as Dev Diwali, it also marks Lord Shiva's victory over the demon Tripurasura, a day believed to mark when the gods descend to earth to celebrate Diwali. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Asian stocks stumble as the tech bubble jitters put the spotlight on stretched valuations. Young Indian chess masters in action at the FIDE Chess World Cup 2025 underway in Goa. And the birth anniversary of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the first Sikh Guru and founder of Sikhism, being celebrated today.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we decode Astra Mark II, why it is India's next generation air dominance weapon, what makes this missile a true game changer. We analyze the force multiplier in the sky, India's mid-air refueling aircraft, and their critical role in sustaining air power. Finally, the infantry soldier gets a much-awaited close-quarter battle carbine, which is compact, precise, and built for decisive close combat. We decode the Army Chief's words, preparing for the unknown. What does it reveal about India's evolving war-fighting mindset? Catch the sharpest analysis of strategy, firepower, and future warfare this Wednesday at 8 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. On to business news now. Updates on the world stock market outlook. US stocks closed sharply lower on Tuesday as big banks warned that equity markets could be headed for a drawdown, reflecting mounting concerns over stretched valuations. All three major US stock indices slid well into negative territory after the CEOs of Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs stoked fears of a potential market bubble, with the S&P 500 having climbed to a series of all-time highs, largely powered by the artificial intelligence AI boom. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq suffered their biggest one-day percentage drop since October 10th on Tuesday. Asian stocks dived on Wednesday and market volatility surged to levels not seen since April after an overnight tech-led sell-off on Wall Street. It put the spotlight on stretched AI valuations. Sellers were particularly harsh on both the Japanese and South Korean markets in early trading, with Tokyo's stock index tumbling 4.5% down, almost 7% from a record high reached on Tuesday. South Korean shares plunged as much as 6.2%. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan was down 2.3%, the most since US President Trump's Liberation Day tariff announcement in early April. In Japan, shares in SoftBank Group dived 10% as one of the world's biggest tech sector investors tracked a 2% drop in the Nasdaq Composite overnight. Meanwhile, the Indian stock markets are closed on Wednesday on account of the Guru Purab holiday. Both the major stock exchanges, the National Stock Exchange and the Bombay Stock Exchange, will resume trading on Thursday. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sporting action. The second round of the FIDE Chess World Cup 2025 commenced on Tuesday in Goa with 17 Indian players still in contention. The top 50 seeded players, including 8 Indians, received byes in the opening round. The second round sees the return of the top seed and current world champion D. Gukesh, India's #1 Arjun Ergyasi and third seed R. Pragnanantha. Leaving aside Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura and Fabiano Caruana, who for one reason or another decided to skip the event, practically all the world's top 100 are participating in the tournament. The opening round saw the exit of reigning Women's World Cup champion Divya Deshmukh, the only female wildcard in the event. The International Cricket Council (ICC) has announced the Women's Cricket World Cup team of the tournament, chosen for outstanding performances during that tournament. India, who lifted the trophy following a victory over South Africa in the finals, saw opener Smriti Mandhana, top order batter Jemima Rodrigues and player of the tournament Deepti Sharma named in the star-studded 11. Runners-up South Africa and Australia also have 3 players in the list. The other players include Pakistan's Sidra Nawaz and England's Sophie Eccleston and Nat Skyver Brunt as the 12th player. One of Britain's most celebrated soccer players, David Beckham, was knighted by King Charles at Windsor Castle on Tuesday, recognizing his decades-long contribution to the sport and his charitable causes. The 50-year-old former England captain received the honour at the royal residence more than 20 years after he was awarded a separate royal honour recognizing his contribution to the sport. Beckham's illustrious career on and off the pitch has made him one of the most recognizable figures in modern sport. The former Manchester United and Real Madrid midfielder played 115 times for the UK and captained the Three Lions for 6 years between 2000 and 2006. The nation is celebrating the 556th birth anniversary of Guru Nanak Dev Ji with deep devotion and reverence on Wednesday. The first Guru of Sikhism, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, gave the world the message of equality, service and humanity. DD India's Suya Sharma reports.
In 1469, in the village of Talwandi Rai Bhui near Lahore, known today as Nankana Sahib, a divine soul was born. He gave humanity the eternal message, Ek Onkar Satnam. There is one God, his name is Truth. Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the first Guru and founder of Sikhism, broke through the boundaries of religion, caste and society in 16th century, offering a new vision, the vision of humanity. Throughout his life, Guru Nanak Dev Ji upheld equality, devotion and truth above all. His teachings gave rise to traditions of Langar, Pangat and Sangat, where everyone sits together, eats together, makes decisions together and serves together. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has described Guru Nanak Dev Ji's teachings as a guiding light for humanity. In 2019, he inaugurated the Kartarpur corridor, making it easier for devotees to visit this sacred site. Permission for FCR registration was granted to Harminder Sahib, allowing donations from abroad for Langar services. Removing GST from Langar, compensating victims of the 1984 riots, and reopening investigations into those cases reflect the government's commitment to justice. All these efforts embody the Guru's ideals of justice and service.
ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਇੱਕ ਸਿੱਖ ਕੌਮ ਦੇ ਬਾਨੀ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਇੱਕ ਰਹਿਬਰ ਹੋਏ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੁੱਲ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਉਪਦੇਸ਼ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਧਰਮਾਂ ਦੇ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਧਰਮ ਸਥਾਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਗਏ, ਕੁੱਲ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਰਹਿਬਰ, ਕੁੱਲ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਧਰਮ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਾਇਲ ਹੀ ਹੋਏ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਫੈਨ ਹੀ ਹੋਏ। ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਸ਼ ਦਿਹਾੜਾ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਧਰਮ ਕੁੱਲ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੜੀ ਸ਼ਰਧਾ ਭਾਵਨਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਨਾਇਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ।
Devotees from Gurudwara across the globe on the occasion of Guru Nanak Jayanti.
ਅੱਜ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਰੌਣਕ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਆਏ ਹਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਆਸ਼ੀਰਵਾਦ ਮਿਲ ਸਕੇ ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਦਾ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
Guru Nanak Dev Ji's message is not merely of devotion, it is a path of humanity and unity. Bureau Report, DD India.
Prime Minister Modi extended greetings on the occasion of Guru Nanak Jayanti. In a social media post, he said, and I quote PM Modi, "The life and message of Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji continues to guide humanity with timeless wisdom. His teachings of compassion, equality, humility and service are very inspiring. Greetings on his Prakash Parv. May his divine light keep illuminating our planet forever." So Guru Nanak Dev Jayanti is one of the most sacred festivals for Sikhs around the world. As Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, truth is the highest virtue, but higher still is truthful living. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates from India and the world. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.